Hello everyone, welcome back on the AgriAdventures program on Radio Italia Uno and on the YouTube channel and the other socials. Now we are also on the podcast, so if you're interested to follow us and my adventures and the other people's adventures on the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and even on Spotify, so almost wherever is possible to be. So today we have a guest for our 50 minutes interview is Corinna and Steeb. She's entrepreneurs from Adelaide Hills, and her business is Prancing Pony. Thank you for being with us, Corinna.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay, so I have to be sincere. I came up over there in Adelaide Hills 2 years ago, the first time, and I was trying to visit all the local producer. You actually based a little bit after Handorf, if I remember right. And the brewery, I went over there. It was so interesting. There was a lot of interesting contrast, small tables, open space. You have the brewery at the back, a lot of horses. My son loved them. So it was really, really characteristic. But anyway, you will talk about more about that. Would you be happy to tell something about you to the people that's following us?
Yeah, sure. So I do actually have a little bit of Italian connection there. My grandfather was born in Pozzuoli, and which is about 8 kilometers north of Naples or Napoli.
Mhm.
And I do have some relatives still in Tyrol, where my grandfather's brothers are living. So I'm German. I'm German by heritage, a bit of mixed heritage. My grandmother was Swiss, my grandfather Italian, my father was German. So we grew up in Germany, and together with my husband and my then 6-year-old daughter, we came to Australia in 1982. It was a very, very different place back then. We were adventurous, we were young, we traveled from Germany to Australia via Asia. And we originally only wanted to stay in Australia for about a year, travel around, see what this country has to offer, and then potentially move on to another country. But, you know, all this time later, we're still here. So there's something that we loved about Australia. One thing that we didn't like was the beer. So back in 1982, the beer in Australia wasn't very much to our liking, and my husband Frank, who's our head brewer and the co-founder of the Prancing Pony Brewery, started brewing beer in his garage. Now, both Frank and I have had professional careers. Frank is a mechanical engineer and a physicist, and I'm actually a medical scientist, and we've had quite a few years in our professional careers before we became rogue and decided that we most probably would have much more fun in making beer, selling beer, and most of all, building a beer community in our beloved Adelaide Hills. So about 8.5, no, almost 9 years ago, we started the brewery initially in a very small shed, and 6 years ago we moved to the current premises, which is, as you rightly said, just outside Handorf in a suburb of Mount Barker called Totnes. And I would describe our premises there as industrial tourism. So it's got a very industrial feel about it. As you mentioned, the brewery is open, and the customer that comes and visits can see all of the processes of beer making, can smell it, can interact with the brewers, and at the same time have a restaurant experience, either a burger or a snitty or some German fare that we put on, and have a beer and just feel the whole beer making process while they're there.
Yes, exactly. I remember the first time I came over, I actually had the opportunity to go through the brewing process with the brewer. So it was really interesting because they showed me during the process and everything. Fortunately, I have already a little bit of knowledge in terms of beers. So being an Italian sommelier, I know a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And it was really nice. I think that the good thing for those experiences was this, it was all connected. And so, first of all, for people who like to come and visit, you already explained where you are located, but to follow you, like there are any like socials that people can find online, there is the way to be more informed about, because I think that for the space and the way of things are organized, it looks like you have some events, it seems maybe music or things like that. So if they want to be updated for the last minute, what's the name they have to look online?
So obviously the best experience people will get by coming directly to the brewery, which we lovingly call the brew shed or just the pony. And we are open 7 days a week. So people can visit any day of the week, but we do recommend that they book because we can get quite busy, in particular on weekends. In our space in craft beer, the socials are almost mandatory. So we wouldn't get away without having the communication that we have with our customers through Facebook, through Instagram, through our website, through blogs, through varying, how can I put it, craft beer enthusiasts pages like We Love Craft Beer or some of those social tools that are available for people to look up craft beer. And we have a very strong following, certainly in South Australia. I think when we won a Supreme Champion Trophy in London for one of our beers in 2016, we sort of came a bit on the radar for a lot of people. But so definitely people can follow us, but the best experience you're still going to get by coming in, because you can see that we're just normal dudes and dudettes, and we just go about our daily life making beer, and we've got all of our staff interacting with everybody. We offer a brewery tour, so if you want to get a bit behind the scenes, and in particular if you're a home brewer, you have interest and you want to get a few hints from the brewers, then you certainly can get that in our brewery. And because it is so open, there is no glass or any other barriers between the punter and the brewery. It's actually really open for discussion and for interacting with the people that are working in the brewery. So we're definitely a working brewery.
How many people are working in the brewery at the moment?
So we divide the brewery mentally, not physically, into two parts. One is the production side, and in the production side we have about 8 people working, because we do everything on site. So we brew the beer, we keg it, we bottle it, we put it into can, and we also do our own distribution. So the brewery side is production side, and we're looking for the people there to have very specific production skills. We have a couple of brewers, and we also have 2 brewers in training. So we utilize our brewery as a place to train people who want to become brewers. And then we have the hospitality side of things, which is obviously you have a kitchen, a full kitchen. We have a pizza chef and a kitchen chef and a head chef, and obviously a lot of people that work varying shifts, and everything from really young people who maybe have their first job in the brewery cleaning the glasses or doing the dishes, to quite experienced people that go for their Cicerone qualification. So a Cicerone is like a sommelier, but for beer. So they very educated in as far as describing flavors, tasting profile, food and beer matching opportunities with customers. So 2 of our people are doing a Cicerone course.
That's interesting. So roughly like 12, 15 people? That's
28.
yeah.
Make it
Okay.
28.
28 people. Okay. Well, there
Yes.
are a lot of community over there because I mean, 28 people are mainly 28 families. So they around your business. There are probably a couple hundred people that are rotating just to work over there. And then try to understand the connection. How was COVID? Like, what was the damage? I helped a little bit to change the business. Or how was the total experience?
It was devastating and demoralizing, is
Mm,
probably the two words that come to mind. And because the larger proportion of our people, if we've got 28 people working with us and only 8 work in the production, there were 20 people who were sort of severely affected with the hospitality side of the business. We reinvented ourselves every day, and it really was to the credit of our staff to come along on that journey with us, because we were closed down unjustly for a period, and we had to actually fight to stay open
mm,
so that we could do at least takeaway delivery of beer and of food. And one of a sudden, you know, your business model is turned upside down. And the best example that I can give you there was, we have a Fiat Ducato to deliver our beers. Now, that's not a small vehicle, as you most probably know. It's a delivery van. And to do pizza deliveries in a delivery van around the Adelaide Hills was just a little bit of a challenge. But our folks, they just jumped on board, and we made sure I placed my office desk directly into the restaurant so that I was around for everybody, for the customers that wanted to come and were concerned, for our pony community that was concerned, and of course for our staff, which
mm.
I wanted to make sure that the moral stays high. So during COVID, we had a lot of beer in kegs that we couldn't utilize, and we decided, rather than keeping it and waiting for that sunny day where we could sell this beer again, it would be old potentially, we extracted the alcohol out of the beer and we made sanitizer. So we had projects going, like our sanitizer project. We became a shop during that period, and we just tried to look for opportunities to keep everybody occupied and most of all engaged. And I think we succeeded, because we could maintain the entire workforce with the
Mm.
exception of 2 people. And everybody that initially had to be stood down was very quickly re-engaged in the brewery, and they're still with us today. So I think we've managed the crisis relatively well.
Now you said something, and I'm really interested to know why did you choose the pony? That's something like why there is a connection with pony or horses. Is there a specific motive?
Uh, in a way, yes. So as I mentioned before, Frank has been a home brewer. So he brewed at home in the garage, and I banned him from the kitchen because he nearly blew it up. And it was a very sort of organic thing for us, you know, doing this beer brewing. And of course, when he was a home brewer, he couldn't, I mean, you look behind me and you can see all those different bottles of beer. When he was a home brewer, we had even more different styles. And at one point, he just couldn't remember anymore whether the circle was the pale ale and the cross was the amber, and the red dot was maybe an IPA. So he actually introduced a homemade label that he quite fancily based on maybe a Cinzano label or
Okay.
something where there were lots of medals on it and quite sort of loud and colorful, just so that he had an opportunity at home to differentiate between the different beers that he made. Coincidentally to that, we lived for a year in Ireland, and we visited the area where Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
And you may make the connection now, but in The Lord of the Rings, there's only one pub, and that pub is called the Prancing Pony
The-
Inn, and it's in Brie. And we got sort of inspired while we lived in Ireland about this sort of, we always said, if we ever have a pub or if we ever have a tap room, people would be drinking out of wooden mugs. It would be comfortable. It would be like your living room. It would be a little bit like the Prancing Pony Inn. And so, of course, connecting the two, Frank doing his own label and us thinking about the Prancing Pony Inn, we just called the beers Prancing Pony Brewery. And when we then went commercial, and Frank said, do we really want to call this Prancing Pony? It's a bit of punsy name. The people around us all said, yes, of course you do. You live in the Adelaide Hills. There's lots of horses, and you can have so much fun with horses, and the rocking horses that you described earlier for the children is just one of the fun elements that we naturally took out of the Prancing Pony Brewery name. So we have a lot of fun. We giddy up and we horse around, and we use it in our everyday language. And yeah, we think it's quite a befitting name for the fun-loving brand that we wanted to create.
That is, and it sounds is still also family connected.
It is very much so.
This sort of, yes. Okay, so this was a sort of dream that became reality. So generally when I do the interview, I ask people where they want to go, like what's a dream, but it seems that over here, the dream is happening now. That is for my understanding. Where would you like to go? Is there another step, or you think that is where you are and you are happy facing what's coming? Because unfortunately we don't know what's coming around you all the time, but facing what's coming, but staying at this level. What are your future's idea on this, on your business?
So our first and foremost goal always has been to employ people, because when we employ people and they're happy with their employment and their families are happy, then we have wealth in the community. And the more wealth you create in your community, the less crime you can project forward. So for us, building the brewery was first and foremost about this community aspect, a place where people would feel safe, where women feel safe. They don't feel like they're going into a pub to have a beer. They're going into their community hall in a way where they can eat and drink and bring their children and breastfeed their children, and whatever it might be. We wanted to create that, and we wanted to make sure that we very much inclusive. So the theme, come as you are, and you're already in it. You don't need to be with it. You're already part of it, is what we live by. We like to see this business grow much further than what it is now. We want this to be replicated in a couple of other places, whether that be perhaps somewhere else in Adelaide or on the eastern seaboard or overseas. We don't really care where the journey takes us. And we're not too obsessed with trying to figure out whether that means we need to produce 1 million litre or 10 million litres of beer. We like to think of it as a revolution and an evolution. So revolutionizing craft beer means to get more craft beer into the hands of ordinary beer drinkers. Okay. So they get the flavour and the fullness and the richness that craft beer has to offer. And the evolution is that part of saying, well, if there's more people that drink craft beer, then the pony will evolve around it. And we're not too fixed in saying, I got to have 5 pubs, or I got to have this, or I got to have that. For us, it's more about a movement, creating a movement, the pony movement, and making people feel very comfortable in this space that is pony. So it's not really so much about the beer. The beer is an outcome of people being part of our community. And if we nail it with a good beer, well, bingo, that's a plus.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being with us, Corinna, and for the people that have been following us. We didn't mention the website.
Yes, so www.prancingponybrewery, all one word, .com.au. For our Instagram handle, it's Prancing Pony SA. Same for Twitter, although we don't do too much Twitter, just Instagram, and Facebook is also Prancing Pony Brewery. So if you type in Prancing Pony Brewery, we will come up one way or
It's
another.
gonna come out in a way or another. Perfect. So for people that is following us, you know, it's not really far away from Adelaide. It's probably take less than 20 minutes, and it's beautiful. You have the opportunity to visit Prancing Pony, but also the area is full of other really small craft producer, which is really, really lovely to visit. So thank you very much, Corinna, for being with us with this AgriAdventures interview, and see you around in the Adelaide Hills.
Yeah, see you around and giddy up.
Exactly. Bye. Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.